Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Happy Sun Day. There is a lot to talk about as it relates to the sun. We are right now in the middle of a high-speed stream impact. This high-speed stream emanating from this really epic looking coronal hole on the sun. This is an area of the solar corona, the outermost atmosphere of the sun, very vibrational, that's deficient, shows up dark in this specific angstrom view of the sun, the 211 angstrom. And this means that there is a direct magnetic field connection between this region of the sun and the earth at this moment in time. This has some evidence for there being an enhancement of earthquake activity on the earth. The jury's still out. My personal thoughts and opinion and intuition is telling me that yes, the sun can affect earthquake activity, volcanic activity on the planet, terrestrial weather, much more. My foundational argument for that is, and evidence for that is that if you were just to turn the sun off and all of a sudden we stopped getting all this heat and energy and light from the sun, well, the earth would totally change dramatically geophysically, and we would not be very happy here on the planet. So I think it makes sense that it also influences these other natural energetic rhythms and processes that unfold here on our planet, but it's multifactorial, so it's hard to pin down precisely. But every single time that we've had a big earthquake since the advent of our ability to image the sun and basically see these sort of graphics, which goes back to Skylab 1973, we have seen a very large coronal hole right in the center or geoaffected position during the highest magnitude earthquakes. And there's a good connection between these coronal hole high-speed streams and terrestrial weather. Specifically, we see increases in vorticity, and so they seem to be tornado breeders. We also see this heightened earthquake activity around that time, though planetary geometry seems to also be an important dynamic because it's more related to the electric circuit dynamics of the solar system, not just the magnetic field dynamics. And the planets play a very important role as it relates to the electric circuit of the solar system, which of course there's many, many, many. They are all internested together, different sizes, scales, different current flows. This is something I'm actively researching into and would like to come to some new understandings of, hopefully with time and collaboration. More on that if you just watch the channel, then you'll stay up to date, of course. Please subscribe if you want to stay up to date on all this stuff. And at the same time as all this is happening, we have had just a sequence, like a machine gun of solar flares pop off from this region there. So we'll check out a different view of the sun that shows these solar flares nicely, but look at just like, this is again the view that shows the solar corona very nicely. Just look at like all these perturbations that are like kind of just flowing out from the sun. When I saw this morning getting ready for the live stream, I was like, wow, that is really cool, because you don't often see this sort of like pulsing emanating of like these plasma flows from the sun on both sides of this coronal hole. So very, very active sun at this moment in time. This is a very big coronal hole. Typically, the bigger they are, the more of an effect they have on the planet. One of the other factors is whether the coronal hole cuts through the equatorial plane of the sun. So this is a trans-equatorial coronal hole because it does have this part here that cuts right through the equator. And most of it, though, the bulk of it is down here in the southern hemisphere. We've been seeing this coronal hole since October. They come around, if they survive, about every 28 days or so. So every month, you could say. So we've been seeing this since October. It was a lot smaller in October. Now it's quite large. It's been large since the 7th rotation, and I think this is rotation 12. I've lost track, but if you do October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, that's 10, but we also, it's 28 days, so I think it's 11 maybe, 11 or 12. Either way, it has maintained size. It's still very large, and now this new section here cutting through the equator nice and wide, and so this very well could give us, or at least it's creating the conditions that seem to correlate with high magnitude earthquakes. We are in that high speed stream right now. It's at a very high velocity, over 600 kilometers per second. The solar wind density is low. That seems to also be important. With the 9.1 earthquake in Japan, March 11th, 2011, we were in the midst of a high-speed stream with a large coronal hole. The solar wind density was under 1 particle per cubic centimeter, and the solar wind velocity was high. Boom, that's when we had a magnitude 9.1. We haven't had a magnitude 8 plus earthquake since August of 2021. So coming up on the 4-year anniversary on the last magnitude 8, the biggest earthquake we had recently was the magnitude 7.7 in Myanmar, Burma. That was on March 28th, 2025. Oh, guess what? This coronal hole was right in that geoaffective position on the 28th of March. But I mentioned the planetary geometry earlier. That's important because we also had Mercury and Venus in front of Earth, in between the Earth and the Sun at that moment in time, helping to, I think, create this stronger electric current dynamic, and therefore maybe potentially that was a strong factor in the rupture of that earthquake. Right now we don't have that dynamic. We'll look at the heliocentric planetary geometry in this video. We'll look at these solar flares. We'll just talk about what's happening. The earthquake swarm at Mount Rainier has continued, which is now making this like one of the most significant earthquake swarms ever observed there. We have an earthquake swarm at Volcano de Agua. I made that live stream update a few days ago, talking about how these volcanoes are literally telling us what's happening on the planet Mount Rainier, or just Rainier is how you pronounce it, but rain is in the name, and the original name for the volcano literally translates from Native American, translates to like the mother of water, something like that. And then Volcano de Agua, water, that's pretty self-explanatory. So we're seeing these massive flash flood events across the United States, dozens and dozens, most of them going unreported, really significant deluge of water. And not only in the US, also Russia, Moscow just had some flooding. China's been having crazy flooding. The Three Gorges Dam is like totally filled up. Huge floods in China, but also throughout Europe. I mean, just record flooding, it seems, all across the globe, really. And this could be related to the 2 nova or supernova explosions that occurred in June. I talked about that in yesterday's video with Max Raymond. So if you haven't watched that, give that a watch. This could be the start of a pretty dramatic climatic shift. According to his research, it's at least interesting to consider. So yeah, a lot to cover in today's video, but it's gonna be fairly quick. At the end, we will do a quick Earth equalization just to help kind of harmonize and do what we can to balance these energies on the globe. I have my tuning forks here provided by Eileen McCusick, biofieldtuningstore.com. You can use the code Stefan Burns for 10% off all their forks. They sound amazing. So we will do that at the very end just because it's the right thing to do. But I don't have too much time today. So let us get into it. That is our coronal hole, very, very large. Earthquake watch basically in effect right now. We're coming off of the full moon. Hope you guys saw that. That was a really nice full moon. There are other things on the sun too. We'll check them out. But first, let's look at our solar flares. You'll notice that sunspots are distributed across the sun. We are now back over 100. In fact, we're right under 130 sunspots for the daily count. The average thus far for July is 107 or so, according to the Royal Observatory of Belgium. And you'll notice that it's this sunspot group here, which is the most active. This is 4140. And so it's just basically spitting fire right now. These are all high C class and low M class flares. So these are not X class flares, which is the strongest category of solar flare. M class flares are the second strongest category. C class flares are the third strongest. So we'll look at that X-ray flux. But in general, these are still it's like a machine gun of solar flares, as you can tell. And I can actually switch over really quick right now to our X-ray flux. It really has been for the past 36 hours, though this did start back further than that. But look at this broad wave of increased X-ray flux, and then just boom, 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 boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka. Though again, these aren't X-class flares. So it's like more just like a machine gun, just kind of going like crazy. And now things seem to have, we see this kind of peak like this rounded peak. We are still a little elevated compared to where we were with our baseline X-ray flux. We see that we kind of had this wave like that, but we may perhaps get a bigger push up at any time because 4140 there is getting closer to Earth's central meridian, and 4136, it's the largest sunspot on the disk, and we see it right there, and it's also been active. So we don't have the biggest flare players on the sun, you could say, you know, these massive sunspots like we've seen over the past 18 months, 24 months, but we're still effectively in very heightened solar activity. This is not solar minimum, and it's not the end of the descending phase. If sunspot numbers are lower than they were back in August of last year, nearly a year ago now. Isn't that crazy? Nearly a year ago now. We had a sunspot count high for the month of 216. Again, the count right now today is 130. That average is about 107. So we are not anywhere near that peak. We may go kind of back up. I don't think we're going to break 216 to have a new high, though. I'm not going to completely say it's never going to happen. Too many people are too definitive with their claims nowadays, and I just think it's really foolish to just say that you know everything, but that's just my opinion. But we could very well kind of have a rebound in activity like we're seeing already. We're already seeing that our sunspot numbers are climbing up. And so it's really sunspot group 4140 there, which is giving us a lot of these flares. Again, just low M class, high C class, but that could change pretty quick. And there's also a very large prominence that's rotating into view right now. Give this a look. You'll see it up here, and this is a very interesting feature because you can like see the ribbon type feature on it at the very end. And there's all these, I don't know why the SDO camera right now is freaking out so much. Let me see if I can get this paused at the right time. It may be difficult to do, but I can punch in on it this way. Just watch that. I mean, this is really cool looking. You'll see like it's like some spiral type of, almost like a vein. Watch, see that structure there? It's really wild. And so you'll see this large prominence going from the far side of the sun and then actually connecting to these plasma filaments here. And then that's feeding right into sunspot group 4136. So there is this dynamic with sunspots where they can kind of get fed energy from these plasma filaments and prominences, and just in general, these flux tubes of plasma. In that flux tube, best evidence suggests that there is a differentiation of ions and therefore of elements because of their different ionization potentials. So a heavier element that gets ionized, let's say iron, requires more energy to ionize. So they're going to form these elemental shells of various lengths. And sometimes with certain flares, we'll see one element get at a much higher percentage than normal because that, what they call these magnetic ropes, probably broke, and that iron was the one that flung out, or the helium, or whatever it is, like the oxygen or sulfur, whatever. So there is this filament and flux rope, magnetic rope bridge going from some other part of the sun and then feeding into the sunspot group. And one of the things that's also linked to solar flare activity are current disruptions. So the current model that most people go off of in space weather and NASA and this, they talk about magnetic connections or magnetic field reconnections and all this stuff. They're always talking about magnetic fields, but they completely ignore often the electric dynamic of the universe. And then there's the electric universe people, which ignore the magnetic field dynamic of the universe as a response to the people that ignore the electric dynamic. So as someone in the middle is just like, I just want to understand what the heck is happening, I study both. And so I've been reading a book called Cosmic Plasma by Hans Alvin, which is like one of the top space weather people that have graced our planet. And Alvin waves are named after him. These are these waves embedded within plasma. And it's a fantastic book. And he's talking about, you know, all the different things, the space weather, cosmic plasma, more. And he stated in his book, I actually meant to bring it down for live stream. I don't have it with me, but that solar flares are very likely, at least a result or partly a result of a disruption to an electric current in that area. And it's not just about magnetic fields. It's this combined system. And so here we see this plasma filament bridge carrying plasma and electric current to the sunspot, and we've seen it be very, very active. And so it's not yet at the Earth's central meridian. This could be there soon. It could be, well, it's going to be there soon. The question is, it could flare soon, like in a more significant way. We often see before the strongest solar flares a buildup in activity just like this. So we'll get kind of this lower grade flare activity to manifest, and things are getting more active and also more destabilized, and then we get something large to occur. So that is very possible to occur over the next, I'd say, 72 hours from this sunspot group, perhaps even further out than that. But after 72 hours, it starts to be more in this zone there. Still could very well hit us with something with like a coronal mass ejection. But once we're out beyond 72 hours, it's more like 4140 there that we have to really focus in on. And in general, also see this coronal hole. You can kind of see it in this view like this. See that guy, all this dark spot? This is an open magnetic field. So if we move away from the electric universe and talk more about the NASA magnetic universe, you could say, the magnetic field being open there does create more magnetic instability around these sunspots, which are these closed magnetic fields. They have their loop and then they close in on themselves. And they're very, very strong. So when you have this big open field next to it, it can create these magnetic field closures and all of a sudden a little bit more instability with that electric current. That's kind of the idea. And so the fact that this is big and cutting through the equator way up into the northern hemisphere, I think is what's making all these sunspot groups nearby active. I mean, just look at that. Just watch that video here. It's not like we've never seen this before, but every single sunspot on the sun is like crackling with activity. I mean, that's insane. Usually you'll see one sunspot kind of looking like that and just bustling and crackling with activity. Right now it's like all of them. And I'm not saying this is going to happen by any means, but just an interesting thing to think about is, okay, so we often see like one sunspot group crackling with activity, then it flares. What if all of those were to have a simultaneous flare together? Not saying it's going to happen, but that would be wild. That would be very wild. I don't know what that would do, what that would mean, but that's just kind of like the vibe I'm feeling from the sun right now. Like, if you want me to reset you guys, I can do that. And you know, Sky God, Father, Son, please, you know, keep things cool, calm, collected. We love you, bro. So the sun is very active right now, and that is then feeding a lot of energy into the Earth, and in general, solar maximum has been feeding a lot of energy into the Earth. We've really had solar maximum kick up starting 2024. So now we're looking at, that's 19 months now, or 18 and a half months of activity. And what I failed to mention at the beginning of the video is that today is effectively when we have Saturn and Neptune nearly at their closest conjunction for 2025 from a geocentric perspective. And so that is a very fiery initiatory energy. They are just 13 arc minutes apart right now at this moment in time. So we'll talk about that. But that gives us some planetary geometry that is more significant than not, but it doesn't have all the factors necessary to, according to like the work of past planetary researchers, doesn't have all the factors necessary to really give us something big, but there is this conjunction here. Actually, we can go to it right now. Here we have our heliocentric chart for the solar system. So the sun is right there in the center, and I have the sidereal constellations here, but they're equal size. So you don't even worry about the boundary here and the constellations or the signs. You don't have to worry about that. We're only concerned right now with the sun in the center and the bodies around it. I've added in Ceres, the dwarf planet in the asteroid belt. I've added in Eris, and I've added in Sedna. Sedna and Eris both being trans-Newtonian objects like Pluto. So we see here that there's the Earth and there's the moon, and we're actually getting close to a conjunction from a heliocentric perspective with Pluto, which is interesting. We see Mercury coming in soon because Mercury is going to do an inferior conjunction soon. Mercury retrograde is starting up in just like a week or so. a little bit more than a week. And then here is Mars, here's Jupiter, here is Uranus and Sedna close together. There's Eris, and here we have Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and Ceres all in a group. So this is a pretty dynamic planetary geometry, but according to Nelson, who is one of the fathers of this, I mean, the more I research into it, the more I realize he's just an absolute genius. He states that Mercury is the activator of planetary geometry by entering into like a conjunction or some critical angle with a preset geometry. The preset geometry here is Saturn and Neptune. Right now, geocentric, they're only 13 arc minutes apart from our perspective. Here, heliocentric, they're 4 degrees or so apart. That conjunction, geocentric for us, will take place in mid-February. From the sun's perspective, it's sometime in the next like 12 months or so. It could be this year for the heliocentric conjunction of the two. I'm not exactly sure, but it's basically they are creating this preset geometry. We have Uranus there sextile them, and then we have Pluto sextile them as well. So that is a preset geometry that we have going through the entire next 24 months or so, but really the next 12 months. This Pluto trine Uranus, both of them sextile to Saturn and Neptune. And then today, right now, we also have Venus participating and also Ceres. Ceres closest to Saturn, Venus closest to Neptune, and we have Earth and Moon swinging in to that conjunction with Pluto. It'll be there in about, what is that, for 11 days or so, because Earth will move 1 degree per day. Right? And so if it's at 26 and Pluto is at 7 or so, 7 to 8 days, or sorry, 11 to 12 days from now, our lovely world here in the cosmos will be conjunct Pluto from that heliocentric perspective, and Mercury will be getting closer and closer to us as well. So this geometry here may not result in any significant energetic disturbance here on the planet today, but that may get activated soon as Mercury swings in and then basically combines with this influence there. That could happen pretty soon. But in general, this is the planetary geometry that we have active for the rest of the year. And you'll notice Jupiter square to them because Jupiter is in that 90-degree angle to this configuration. So it's a very potent configuration. Let's talk about some of these earthquakes that have been happening. We just had 2 new earthquakes pop off in our swarm in Japan, and we've had a lot of earthquake activity around Mount Rainier, Volcano de Agua, Ruapehu in New Zealand. That was a few days ago. It's cooled off, but in general, there's been quite a lot of earthquake activity. And before I forget, let me just make a couple channel announcements, all right? So if you're new here, hello and welcome. I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geophysicist, space weatherman, and more. What we look at on the channel is just what's happening on Earth energetically. That's my fascination. My channel's always just been about what I am interested in. And so I explore a lot of different things on the channel, but primarily I do these energy reports. We look at geologic forces and factors like large earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, earthquake swarms. We examine geophysical energies like the Schumann resonances, other natural resonant energy fields on the Earth, Earth's hum. We look at the sun, solar activity, space weather. We also examine planetary geometry, planetary resonances, and at times even cosmic forces when applicable. For example, we've been talking about these 2 nova eruptions recently, V462 Lupi and V572 Velorum, both popped off in June 12th and then also June 26th, respectively. How that may have been affecting the planet, but there are other things as well. I bring all that together, mix it up nicely, along with some health and wellness information and some, consciousness and spirituality stuff, all things that just personally I find interesting, and I present videos almost daily. So it's really your one-stop shop if you like this stuff. So please subscribe if that's interesting to you. The other thing that I do, because I started this channel in 2020, you could say. I really started like actually promoting and posting it, you could say, content to this channel 2020 as I went on a research sabbatical. And my way of learning is to research a whole bunch and then basically make some sort of product from that, which is a video presentation. I was also at the same time exploring into herbalism. I still am, of course. That's another passion of mine. And so I express that passion through my website. This is earthevolution.com. And you can go to www.earthevolution.com/store to check out my herbal tea products. So let me actually pull up the website really quick for you and show you earthevolution.com/store. There are new products that are going to be put up soon, but I have all the tea blends now in stock, which is why I'm making this announcement, because I've been working to get all the tea blends back in stock. Now they are all in stock. So here is the store, and you'll see everything here is purchasable. And so, for example, Spirituality, the bestseller, Dream Tea is in stock. This is the first tea blend I made in 2022. I wanted something that potentiated my dreams more. I got that with the Spirituality. It's 4 ingredients: passion flower, mugwort, chamomile, and purple lotus flower. Probably the best dream tea on the market, short of like doing the research and maybe using some other dream herbs and crafting your own. But super high quality, all organic. All the teas are all organic and sourced from really good sources, almost all of them from the United States, local organic farmers. Vitality is good for hormones, and it's a little bit of an aphrodisiac, helps you feel a little bit more embodied. Good for your immune system too, has ashwagandha, really good stuff. Ulutheru, Siberian ginseng. Then there's Tranquility, good for calming, grounding energy, really good for your gut health, microbiome, sleep, rest, relaxation. This stuff's awesome. The 2 main ingredients are chamomile and dandelion root, both of which are expensive. And I offer this at a good price. It's 4 ounces in each bag. So those are fantastic in combination with each other. There's also lemongrass, calendula, and a little bit of lavender. Then we have fruit tea. This is finally back in stock. My dad tried this for the first time. He's now helping me with packing the orders and shipping them out and everything. He's like, this is insane. It's like his new favorite tea blend. So it's strawberries, elderberries, hibiscus, rose hips, and also a little bit of lemon balm to help you like calm down. It's a natural anti-anxiolytic. A lot of people report lemon balm is so good that they can get off their anxiety meds as a result. So this is really good for a nice, flavorful, sweet cup of tea, but it's also really good for your immune system. If you have a cold or anything like that, the elderberry, the rose hips is like primo. And in general, it's just like a good cup of tea to have at night instead of reaching for a bowl of ice cream. That's in stock. Pairs well with the Vitality, by the way, as well. These two go really well together. And then we also have Electricity, which is a really great caffeine-based herbal tea using yerba mate, but also ginkgo. So it really gets the brain cells snapping, good for neuroplasticity, also good for your gut health. The lemongrass is good for that, your microbiome optimization, all that. Really good iced tea on a nice hot summer day. You can make that, ice it down, and ooh la la, fantastic. Lastly, another big seller, the herb coffee. This is 50% single origin organic Peruvian coffee, as well as roasted chicory root, roasted dandelion root, and 12.5% lion's mane mushroom. So no just dusting. We put a bunch of lion's mane in this. Super, super good coffee. My dad is like a fanatic now, drinking it every single morning. I see him getting healthier by the day. I love it. This stuff's really good. It's like a nice, strong, earthy brew, but basically it tastes like coffee. So 50% the caffeine though. You're not overstimulating your receptors. Really good stuff. All those are now back in stock and available at earthevolution.com, as well as, for example, these super optical clarity quartz crystals, my children's book on bullying that I wrote a long time ago, and also some of my dad's soil artwork. So you can check that out. I love his soil artwork. Stonehenge is in my office right behind me. So just wanted to let people know, because I've had a lot of people asking, hey, where's your tea? Is it back in stock? Whatever. That's the announcement. earthevolution.com/store. Thank you for supporting the channel and allowing me to support you, because I make all this stuff specifically as a way to help people with their health and wellness. That's the whole point of herbalism. 80% of drugs on the market have a base in some sort of herb or natural product. Maybe it's like 90%. It's something like 80 to 90%. But then they take out the critical component and then they patent it, and then they screw everyone and make billions in profit for themselves, while other people, they turn into a business model and other people are sick, tired, and dying. So nature has the medicine for us. It's if you find it yourself, it's free. If you buy it from like a natural source like this, it's not free, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than some $20,000 a year drug, whatever. All that healing medicine is very important, and so that is why I offer these tea blends, because I found great value in them for myself for a variety of reasons. And if I can, as someone that has a channel, can provide that to others at a fair price, which I do, then I feel like that's a responsibility I should take upon myself. So earthquakes. Japan, we've had 2 new magnitude 5s in this swarm here. USGS is not showing all the earthquakes, only these magnitude 5s, but showing that this earthquake swarm is still active and alive, as you can tell. And then we also just had a magnitude, what was this, 4.6, more like central Japan off the coast. Here's the most recent earthquake of 5.2 in that swarm. We've been having a swarm here near Nicobar Island, and so this earthquake swarm is also still active. This one just happened, by the way, a depth of 29.2 kilometers, and this is very close to the magnitude 9 earthquake that occurred in 2004. That location was right about here, right? That Sumatra earthquake, magnitude 9, 2004, right about there. This is that location of that earthquake storm. This could have a very large earthquake if the conditions are right. This could have a magnitude 8 plus earthquake, magnitude 9. This earthquake swarm here off the south coast of Japan is fairly close to the location of the magnitude 9.1 in Japan. That was more like in this zone here. But in general, this entire zone could get a magnitude 9 plus earthquake. I'm not saying there's going to be a magnitude 9 that happens or a magnitude 8 that happens today, tomorrow, whatever. It's always a possibility though. And so the fact that we're seeing so much earthquake swarming in these zones that have this capability is something to consider. Because it's been going on continuously now for both of these spots for like more than 2 weeks. Then we also have Volcán de Agua in Guatemala. It is a recent volcano, and the history on it is, we don't really know the history on how often it's erupted and like the last eruption and things of that nature. But if I zoom out here, you'll see there's a whole string of volcanoes there. That's because of the subduction zone off the coast of Guatemala and general Central America. But these earthquakes have been popping off like crazy near Volcán de Agua. The most recent here on USGS is the 3.5, but we'll look at that data specifically with a different site. But in general, no high magnitude earthquakes for the past few days. We can go to our 1 week chart and see what the highest magnitude earthquakes have been. It was at 6.3 in New Zealand still. So that was on the 7th of July, the 7-7 portal. That was the day that Uranus shifted into Gemini. If you use Western tropical astrology, that was out of an earth sign into an air sign. And then this 5.7 is the next strongest, and that was the one in Guatemala at Volcán de Agua. So we haven't had like the highest magnitude earthquakes, and therefore that scales with the highest amount of global seismic energy release. But we have been having interesting earthquake patterns across the globe, which is, I think, you can't just always measure things by it's the most powerful or it's the strongest. Like there are sometimes the strongest signals are actually the most subtle. And so that holds true. The patterns, the behaviors, these are very important things to also keep track of, which we do on this channel. Now, if I go to our Volcano Discovery site, since we're talking about Volcán de Agua, check this out. This is the number of quakes per year. It should be right here. Yeah, there we go. And look at how the earthquakes have just gone ballistic basically for 2025 in and around Volcán de Agua in Guatemala. So now we've had 61 earthquakes greater than magnitude 3, and we've had 9 earthquakes greater than magnitude 4. We've had some magnitude 5s, at least at 5.7. There's a couple other 5s as well. And we see our earthquakes greater than magnitude 2 and greater at now 166. Basically, already halfway through 2025, we've eclipsed all these prior swarms of earthquakes, or just in general time periods of heightened earthquake activity around this volcano. So it's like, hey, is the volcano waking up? Like, what's the deal? Is it just like water moving along pre-existing faults and fractures, giving us these little rumbles? Well, a magnitude 5.7 tells you that's probably like a big injection of magma coming up, because you need some oomph to create a magnitude 5.7. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Volcán de Agua like has an eruption this year. I wouldn't be surprised. All signs as it relates to earthquake activity are pointing that direction. You also have to measure, let's say, like deformation on the volcano, gas emissions and stuff. I don't have that data. That would be useful to look into. I'll make sure I look into that soon. We may not have that data at that volcano. This is in Guatemala. The volcanoes in first world countries are really well monitored. I just don't know whether they have that in Guatemala. I'm sure I've never been there. I've heard great things. I heard it's an amazing place, but I don't know if they're like on top of it as, let's say, Italy is with Mount Etna or Campi Flegrei, where they have a really dense seismic station and they have professional geologists, geophysicists, seismologists who've spent their entire career, dozens of these people, if not hundreds, their entire career monitoring this. Let's look at Mount Rainier. And actually, let's go right to our Mount Rainier portal because this swarm has not stopped. It is a record swarm now at Mount Rainier. If I zoom out, you'll see our location. This is in Washington State, if you're unaware, just south of Seattle. And it's near Tacoma, which is the original name for this mountain, which means like the mother of water, something like that. People have been commenting that on the channel, sharing the translation of the Aboriginal name. And I already selected our earthquakes here. If I hit plot for the cumulative number, we can see get our depth, our magnitude, time, all this stuff. Let's just look at the number of earthquakes. Let's hit plot and check this out. This is going back to around June 20th or so. So about less than a month, okay? We see that we went up to about 25 before all of a sudden this swarm started, and look as this continued to go up, and now we are over that 500 number cumulatively. So that right there is probably just under 25. So 500 earthquakes now in this swarm, whereas in 2009 it was 120 earthquakes. The average is 9 per month. So they have not been tracking, as far as I know, any changes in deformation at Mount Rainier or different gas emissions and stuff. Though they're always tracking this, so the activity level is still the same, but tremendous earthquake swarm at Mount Rainier, and we can actually look at the depth for this as well to see where the depth of these earthquakes are, and you'll notice that most of them are about a kilometer down. I'm actually a little confused by this earthquake map, the depth map, because they have -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So I'm not exactly sure the depth, but none of them are too far down below the surface. They're all right underneath that summit effectively. And so we see that the number of earthquakes has slowed down, right? We had the biggest burst there right on the 9th, the 8th and 9th of July, and it has been slowing down, but still continuing. So this is like a significant development. I've been talking about this now for a few days. If you live in the area, be aware, be prepared, don't be freaked out, but be aware and be prepared. If you continue to watch the channel, I'll continue to give you updates on this until the situation cools off, or, I mean, God forbid something really happens. But I don't think that's the most likely outcome. I think the most likely outcome is that Earth is actually telling us and giving us some signals as to what is ahead of us by putting these earthquake swarms in certain spots. Volcán de Agua, Mount Rainier, or if you use the original name of Tacoma, that means like the mother of water. So I think we have a lot of water in our future due to climate shifts, the changing of the SMOC, this overturning circulation around Antarctica. So yeah, quite a lot happening. Here is our real-time solar wind, so we can check out this high-speed stream and the characteristics of it. And so we see that our solar wind all of a sudden increased in strength. Here's the magnetic field up top, the black line. And we notice that our southward component, this red line, started becoming really variable. If it goes sharply negative like that and forms these buckets, as I call them, that's when we get a good connection and therefore an increase in geomagnetic volatility. You see that we haven't had a strong sustained southward connection. but the velocity has been going up. So boom, 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 boom. And now we are up at 600, 636 right now. The peak we reached is actually over 700 kilometers per second, if you see that right there. So a big increase in solar wind velocity, because before this stream came in, we were under 350 kilometers per second. And we see how geomagnetic volatility has increased as a result as well. This is our KP index. This is measuring geomagnetic field swings of the strength of Earth's magnetic field at the surface all across the planet. They compile it into this index going from 0 to 9. 9 means you have a G5 geomagnetic storm. Huge swings in the field strength. Of course, that goes all the way from the core out to space. If you have a field strength, a KP of 5, that's a G1 storm, which is a minor geomagnetic storm. Anything under a KP of 5 is like active to quiet conditions, or unsettled, as they may call them, unsettled to quiet. Notice how here, when our solar wind was very low, that our geomagnetic field was basically totally quiet, nothing changing. All of a sudden it went up. We did hit a brief 3-hour period of G1 storming there with a 4.67 of the KP index. That's like a G1 minus storm, you could say. But this solar wind velocity, if it stays elevated, that is going to keep things active. Look at our density right now. It's under 1. So the conditions, based on some of my research, the space weather conditions are basically there for us to get a big earthquake. Not saying it's going to happen, but these are the conditions that we do often see these larger earthquakes rupturing during. And the more you research into space weather and Earth geophysics and the connection between them, the more you find out that's all connected together. So that is active right now at this moment in time, and that's likely to stay active for a while. Here we have the Earth Analytics portal. This is on the earthevolution.com site. So it's earthevolution.com/energy-analytics. Here we can see our Schumann resonances as observed in Tomsk, Russia. And we also see our global seismic activity level. We see that we've actually been descending with our activity level cumulatively over the past 90 days after that 7.4 Drake's passage on the 2nd of May. But maybe today that trend breaks and we go up, maybe tomorrow. It depends, there's a lot of factors, but it's a heightened probability, I would say, and a heightened possibility with that coronal hole high-speed stream right now impacting us. And also with the solar flares, every solar flare charges up the ionosphere more. And we see these traveling ionospheric disturbances sometimes before, but usually during a powerful earthquake. It's associated with an ionospheric disturbance. And a stronger ionosphere, which is the part of the atmosphere just surrounding our planet, just like this. This is the radiation belts. This is further out. But the ionosphere is just surrounding our planet. That connects to the solar wind. And actually, if you have a really strong ionosphere, these Birkeland currents, these auroral currents, field-aligned currents, that's how they connect. So you get a stronger flow of energy through them because that connects the electric circuit together. You can't have a strong electric circuit if there's a break in it, right? That's why some of these simple little circuit toys that you can buy, like you're learning how to wire a circuit, there'll be that break, that switch will connect the two wires together, allowing that flow of energy from the battery to the light bulb. It's the same thing, just on a bigger scale and much more complex with the Earth. So a stronger ionosphere allows for a stronger current and circuit that can develop in these larger space weather systems. And so those solar flares also creating that greater ionization is allowing for that potential. So we have that active. Our radiation belts are also pretty strong right now. We can turn them on to check them out. May need to refresh this page to show that. But our radiation belts are pretty charged up at this moment in time. Let's give them a look. And that also can contribute to greater ionization of the ionosphere because they can rain down into the ionosphere with strong space weather impacts. So I'm not sure our radiation belts are going to load up. I have some work on this webpage I need to do. It's still a work in progress. But here we see our sunspots. And so you'll see 4136 and then here's 4140. And so this is the most active and 4136 is basically just as active. It is bigger. They're soon going to pass through that Earth center direct meridian. They may or may not give us a show when they do so, or before or after that. It's just a possibility, and I'd say it's a heightened possibility, but I'm not necessarily thinking it's going to be a problem, let's say. I don't think the world's going to end anytime soon, but if we get signs that it is, I'll let you know. But I'm not worried about some of these things that people are worried about online, the world ending or any of this stuff. I think this is all within the normal realm of possibility for the Earth, for the sun, for the solar system, for the cosmos. It's really just a question of our response to it, and I just find it interesting. I just like to learn about these things, and so it's really just out of a curiosity that I study this and then share this on the channel. So it's nothing to necessarily be like afraid about. It looks like we got a thunderstorm coming in right now outside. So with that, let us do our Earth equalization that I discussed earlier. And so again, before that, if you want to pick up any of these tea products, as they are all back in stock right now, we'll ship them out quick. This is USA only, by the way. It's available at earthevolution.com/store. And we'd be happy to receive your support and also to be able to support you with these amazing all organic herbal tea and coffee products. Okay, hope all of you are doing well. Again, happy Sunday. And I just want to do a very quick equalization. So nothing too complex, but let us start with what frequency? Maybe the 222. So just find a comfortable position, and I invite you to close your eyes and help just visualize coherent energy. However you may see that, just visualize coherence. Feel yourself resonating with the earth coherently. And breathe out. Big breath out all the way. Nothing left. Sometimes we need to totally discharge to then bring new in. Breathing is the best way to do this. So as the sun brings in more of these energies and continues driving the evolution of this planet, it's important that we also let go of what no longer serves us, what may have been programmed into us, and to fill in that void, if you so choose, with energies that are more aligned with your soul purpose, life mission, and just how you want to help people. Maybe you have some health issues, you need to help yourself first. That is always a good thing to do. Make space for coherent energy and release the non-coherent chaos energy of the not self, of others, of disruptive forces. But the earth is here for us. We are children. The sun is here for us. God, of course, the Creator, is here for us. Are we here for them? Are we here for God? This is 528 hertz. Still release anything that no longer serves. Feel it and release it. There we go. Better. Breathe. Big breaths. Feel the life force coursing through your body, Welcome back. Thank you all so much, everyone. Wishing all of you well. Please take care of yourselves, and I will be back with another update as soon as necessary. That is my job, my calling at this moment in time, to keep people up to date, educated, and in awe of the natural wonder all around us. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you all very soon.